are gathered for a time of worship and of song. Let none forget the joys and griefs that mark each path of life, and thus we reach for those who love. We reach for those who love.
Good morning. Welcome to the First Unitarian Church of Orlando. I'm Dave Shine, and it is my honor to welcome you here to worship this morning. In the words of Monica Jacobson Tennyson, welcome. What you bring, who you are, enriches us all. We say welcome to your joy, your hope, your pride. We say welcome to your grief, your fear, your anger. In the parts of you that are not yet ready to be seen and heard, we welcome them as well. May this time together be a blessing. If you'd like to know more about our congregation, you can visit our website at orlandouu.org or send us an email to welcometeam@orlandouu.org, and we'd be glad to get to know you better. Immediately following the service at 11:30 today, we have our two usual offerings. First, informal fellowship, with an opportunity to chat for about 20 minutes in small groups. And our weekly Welcome Center, where if you're new or to our faith or to our congregation, you can come and ask some questions and get to know more what we are about. There is a lot happening here at 1U. Have you joined the 21-day Radical Equality Habit Building Challenge? It takes about 21 days to build a habit, so this challenge gives you materials each day to further your understanding of power, privilege, and oppression. See the posts each morning on our Wrestling with Our Understanding of Race Facebook page. This week focuses on racial justice and education. The sanctuary renovation project is progressing. Check out the recent update from the Completing the Dream team on the homepage of our website. The metal roof is removed, the leak damage repaired, so we're ready to install the new roof. The HVAC is replaced, and work progresses on the interior. Photos of the new improvements will be added to the church website. And now we have a special message from our Ministerial Search Committee.
Good morning. My name is Greg Buckingham, and I'm from the Ministerial Search Committee. Recall that the committee is made up of 7 members: Craig Allig, Rose Byler, Marty Haney, Elizabeth Horn, Allison McMillan, and Sandy Pollock. We wanted to give you an update, and we have some news that we have developed a congregational survey. And so this is the first time that the congregation will interact and give us information which will help guide us during the search process. Now, the survey will be taken online. It'll take you about a half an hour, and the link is in the e-blast, and it'll be in the e-blast for the next several weeks. The survey will be open from August 9th to September 10th, so about a month. We would appreciate all members, visitors, friends, and staff taking the survey during that time period. Now, if you feel more comfortable downloading it and writing it out and mailing it back to us, that's fine. That's perfectly fine with us. And likewise, if you need help with the survey, we're perfectly happy to help you. In a minute, I'll give you an email for our contact, but all that information is in our publication material that we sent out. But our contact for the survey is Elizabeth Horn, and her email is elizabethbhorn@gmail.com. We look forward to you taking the survey. We'll be putting notices out during the month, so once you take it, please know we appreciate you taking the survey, and we're still trying to reach other members, perhaps who haven't completed it. Our second important note is that on the First Unitarian website, we have a tab called Ministerial Search. And there we'll post materials throughout the process that kind of help inform you of what our latest steps are. Right now, there's some introductory information there, and there will be a blog there on the survey so that you can read a little more in depth about it. And again, the link and contact information are in that blog also, so you can get to it on the website. We have been working hard, and we are excited about the search process, and we're excited about the future of First Unitarian. Thank you.
A special thank you to all those hardworking members of that committee doing this very important work. I've been a member of this congregation for over 15 years. It nurtures me. It comforts me. It inspires me, and it challenges me. And that's why it is important to me to support this congregation. If you would like to support the many ministries of 1U, you can go to our website and click the donate button in the upper right-hand corner. Or you can donate by text, or you can send us a check. It is great to be together today. Now let's gather together in worship.
Our opening hymn is I Am That Great and Fiery Force, number 27 in the Gray Hymnal.
Shine in glitter on the seas, in burning sun, in moon and stars, in unseen wind, in verdant trees. I breathe within both near and far, and where I breathe there is no death, and meadows glow with beauty's rife. I am in all the Spirit's breath, the thundered word, for I am life.
Good morning. We're the Horn family. This is Ansley. This is Nolan. And I'm Elizabeth. Unitarian Universalists light a chalice at the beginning of worship to set aside time, this time, as a sacred time. Please say with me our familiar words. Can you say it with me? In the light of truth and in the warmth of love, we gather to seek, to sustain, and to share.
Good morning, all. I'm Samuel Shaw, Transition Minister of First Unitarian Church of Orlando. These words from the 14th century Persian poet Hafiz call us into worship. What is laughter? What is laughter? It is God waking up. Oh, it is God waking up. It is the sun poking its sweet head out from behind a cloud. You have been carrying too long, veiling your eyes and hearts. It is light breaking ground for a great structure. That is your real body, called truth. It is happiness applauding itself and then taking flight to embrace everyone and everything in this world. Laughter is the pole star held in the sky by our beloved, who eternally says, "Yes, dear ones, come this way towards me and love. Come with your tender mouths moving, and your beautiful tongues conducting songs, and with your movements, your magic movements of hands and feet and glands and cells, dancing. Know that to God's eye, all movement is a wondrous language and music, such exquisite, wild music. Oh, what is laughter, Hafiz? What is this precious love and laughter budding in our hearts? Come, let us worship together.
Good morning. I'm Sarah Gray, religious educator here at First Unitarian Church of Orlando, and today's service is all about this idea of worship. Now, what is worship? What does it mean to worship? Worship can mean expressing awe or wonder or even love towards something that we care deeply about, something that we want to show reverence to. You can find awe and wonder and love in so many things that touch our daily lives. Many religions that you're familiar with choose to worship a god or a deity or some sort of higher power. Other faith traditions choose to worship things like the human spirit, Mother Earth, science, or nothing in particular at all. We're all free to worship in whatever way we choose. Today, we will be reading a story that tells you a tale that you might have heard in your science class before. It's a tale about evolution. But just because this is science, it doesn't mean that we can't worship it, because it still brings awe and wonder and reverence to something bigger than us, the story of where we all came from. Join me as we read Our Family Tree, an Evolution Story by Lisa Westberg Peters. Our Family Tree, an Evolution Story by Lisa Westberg Peters, illustrated by Lauren Stringer. All of us are part of an old family. The roots of our family tree reach way back to the beginning of life on Earth. We've changed a lot since then. When we began, we didn't look like people. We didn't have 2 eyes to blink or 10 toes to wiggle. We were just tiny, round cells in the deep, dark sea. On the outside, we were so small, we were almost invisible. But on the inside, we had the same kind of spiraling genetic code for life that we have today. And that's the way our family stayed, generation after generation, year after year, for millions of years, tiny and round, floating in the sea. But then the earth changed. Land rose from the oceans. The air filled with oxygen. Life changed too. Slowly, one step at a time, some cells joined together and became plants. Our cells joined together and we became animals. On the outside, we were squishy and soft like worms. On the inside, our cells had many shapes: square like boxes, pointy like stars, round like ripe seeds, the same way they do now. As the seas rose and fell, our family changed again. On the outside, we had scales to protect us and fins, 2 on each side, to swim against strong currents. On the inside, we had spiny backbones that helped us move as freely as we do today. When families of green plants and insects began living on the land, we followed them. On the outside, we still had scales, but we looked like huge salamanders. We crawled out of the sea on legs, 2 on each side. We didn't stray far, and we returned to the water to lay our eggs. On the inside, we had lungs to breathe oxygen. like we do now. As all the continents on Earth slowly joined into one, we left water completely. On the outside, we looked like hairy lizards. We hunted all day and had sharp teeth to tear our food. On the inside, our blood ran warm, almost as warm as it does today. In one of the Earth's dark times, nearly all life went extinct, but many families survived. Ours was one of them. On the outside, we were small and furry. We hid or slept during the day, and we scurried about at night. On the inside, we made milk for our babies, the way we do now. After an asteroid shattered the calm and a layer of fine dust settled on everything, we changed again. On the outside, we looked more and more like we do now, but we still walked on all fours. We climbed tree trunks with our thumbs and thumbnails, toes and toenails. On the inside, the bones of our hands looked almost the same as they do today. After the earth cooled and the forest shrank, we left the trees to live in the open grasslands. On the outside, we walked upright with 2 legs, with 2 arms free for using tools. On the inside, we had large brains, not as big as they are now. Today is a long, long time from when our family started. Slowly, one step at a time, we've changed. On the outside, we are all people, from the size of our heads to the shape of our toes. We are all people. On the inside, we are all people with big brains that wonder who we are, where we came from, and where we are going next. We began as tiny round cells, and we've changed a lot since then. But we carry with us reminders each step of our past. That's how it is with families, and ours goes back a long, long way.
Thank you, Sarah. And now we set aside time for the hearing of the joys and concerns of our congregation and the world. Today I hold up as a joy the witness of our church in these days to the reality of these times. I speak of our Black Lives Matters banner. We put it up in June for the first time. It was noted that it was missing, stolen on July 13th, and reprinted and replaced a few weeks earlier on July 30th. Our building these days is largely empty as we're doing all of our ministry online, and yet even our building sitting there on Robinson Street is witnessing to the wider community of not only one of our values, but one of the deep truths of our generation, that indeed Black lives matter. And we also remember all those in our community these days who are suffering from the virus, especially for those who are ill, as well as for those who are unemployed or minimally employed, for those who are working in less than desirable conditions, for all who are feeling vulnerable, and for all who are feeling lonely in these days of sheltering in place. Here in the congregation, we honor these joys and concerns. We received notice this week of the death of the Reverend Dr. J. Deacon, who served this congregation as interim minister in 2008 to 2009. He had been ill for some time. Memorial services will be held on Zoom on the internet on September 26th under the care of Channing Memorial Church in Newport, Rhode Island, and its minister, the Reverend Bill Zelazny. Jay had served that church previously. Jay's service to our Unitarian Universalist tradition is rich. He was director of what was then called the Office of GLBT Concern at our national office, the Unitarian Universalist Association in Boston, in 1986 to 89, and developed a welcoming congregation at that time, which is still in use today. He was among the pioneers of our LGBTQ ministers. He served well and faithfully in a number of congregations in both interim and settled positions. Jay's gentle spirit, probing mind, in heart rich of spiritual insight, will be missed. He had a Zen-like patience that could provoke those who were less than patient. He well understood that works without faith is dead. The works he leaves behind goes on to honor him and to bless us, including here at this congregation. And personally, I want to express the joy of being grateful for your notices of care and concern for me. I had neck surgery a week ago last Friday. It was very successful. I've got to wear this stylish collar for a while to keep the neck straight. I am feeling well. I am moving more slowly these days, but getting back up to speed as I work from home. Again, thank you for all of your care and concern. And as always, we honor the unspoken concerns of our congregation. Now let's take a deep breath, mindful that in this simple act we declare our interdependence with each other and with all life every day. In a moment, we'll have a spoken meditation and prayer with silence following. And in the silence, I will invite you into the communion of names, whereupon you can use either Zoom notes or Facebook comments to lift up the name of any in your life who you want to be remembered, who needs prayers, who needs healing, who needs anything that we might in the Spirit give them. Now, let's sing to open our hearts. Aubrey.
Join me in singing, Come, My Way, My Truth, My Life, hymn number 89 in the Gray Hymnal.
Our meditation and prayer is from the Reverend Gordon McKeeman. How does one address a mystery? Cautiously. Let us go cautiously then to the end of our certainty, to the boundary of all we know, to the rim of uncertainty, to the perimeter of the unknown which surrounds us. Reverently. Let us go with a sense of awe, a feeling of approaching the powerful holy whose lightning slashes the sky, whose persistence splits concrete with green sprouts, whose miracles are present in every place and moment. Hopefully, out of the need for wholeness in our own lives, the reconciliation of mind and heart, the conjunction of reason and passion, the intersection of the timeless with time. Quietly, for no words will explain, the inarticulate or summon the presence that is always present, even in our absence. Spirit of life, Spirit of love, today we pray for all those among us or in the world who are hurting or ill in any manner of body, mind, or spirit. For these and for all, we pray for a greater sense of peace and purpose, wholeness and health. And now, with the meditations of our hearts, we enter the silence together and the communion of names. And so it is. Blessed be. Amen.
The Chalice Choir sings today's anthem, Lift Up Your Voice Higher and Higher, words and music by Brian Tate.
Lift up your voice higher, higher every day. Lift up your voice higher. Rejoice in every way. I'm singing, you're singing, we're singing. Oh, make a joyful noise unto the world. Lift up your voice higher, higher every day. Lift up your voice higher. Rejoice in every way. I'm singing, you're singing, we're singing. Oh, make a joyful noise unto the world.
Nobody sings the way you do, nobody sings like me. I sing of praise, I sing of joy,
Sing in harmony.
There was something deep inside that just wants to be free. Gonna lift my voice today.
Lift up your voice
Lift
and
up your
sing.
voice
Higher every
higher.
day. Lift up your voice
Lift up
and
your
sing.
voice.
Rejoice in every way.
Oh,
I'm singing, you're singing, we're singing. Oh, make a joyful
Sing
noise
unto
unto
the world.
Sing out proud, sing out strong. Lift your voice loud and long. Lift up your voice and
Sing
sing.
out
Higher every day. Lift up your voice and sing.
out
Rejoice in every way. I'm singing,
Lift your
you're singing,
voice.
we're singing. Oh, make a joyful noise unto the world. Lift up your
Nobody
voice
sings
and
the way
sing.
you do. Nobody
Higher
sings
every
like
day.
me.
Lift up
I
your
sing
voice
of praise,
and
I sing
sing.
of joy, I
Rejoice
sing in
in every
harmony.
way.
I know
I'm
there's
singing,
something deep
you're
inside
singing,
that wants
we're
to be set
singing.
free.
Oh, make a joyful
Gonna lift
noise
my
unto
voice
the
today.
Lift up your voice and sing. Higher every day. Lift up your voice and sing. Rejoice in every way.
Oh,
I'm singing,
you're singing,
we're singing. Oh, make a joyful noise unto the world. Higher.
When I was in junior high school, I saw the ocean for the first time in my life. I grew up in the panhandle of Texas, which is hot and dry, and there's not much water there. That summer of my 15th year, I drove my grandparents to Corpus Christi, Texas for the weekend. And when we got there that very first evening, I wandered down from the hotel to the beach below and experienced the immensity and the power of the ocean for the first time. The evening, standing on the shore, the winds were up, the waves were high. There weren't very many other people on the beach then. And I remember it as a wonderful experience of the power of nature, of this context that I lived in that I couldn't control, wild and wonderful. The ocean was so big it seemed endless. I had never seen anything as big in my life. I remember being overwhelmed and experiencing God in those moments. For what a wonderful presence and principle and power I thought must be behind this majestic expression that I was then experiencing. I was having a worshipful experience. I found myself part of something larger than I was, and I participated in that drama. I couldn't control it. I could only let the experience wash over me, such as the mist that came up from the gigantic waves, whipped and tortured by the Gulf breezes that evening, so long ago, when one boy wandered down the beach along the Gulf Coast. As I grew into adulthood, such moments of awe were rare. The older I got, the more consumed I became with tasks, the tasks of college, of career, of marriage, of child rearing, all good things and noble things, but something was missing in my life. By my mid-30s, I was aware that there was little in my life that was worshipful, and I yearned to feel part of something larger than myself. I yearned to experience the sacred, like that night on the beach, witnessing the power of nature. I was searching intellectually and religiously, and resisting the old theologies, but there was something in me that sought the mysteries of life that I couldn't find anywhere. Where was the awe? Where could I make a joyful noise? Upon finding the Unitarian Universalist tradition, going to worship Sunday after Sunday, I began to depend upon that 1 hour of worship as a context for my life and building a foundation for my life and for the week that would follow. In our modern, technology-driven, highly scientific global culture, why do we need worship? What exactly is worship? And who or what are we worshiping? Why do we need worship? Because we are more than a material mass of blood, bone, and muscle. We have within us a spirit that yearns for expression and connection. One way of saying it is to say we are embodied spirits. There is something in our hearts that yearns for connection to something larger. And so, naturally, we'll worship something. Emerson said, "A person will worship something, have no doubt about that. That which dominates our imaginations and our thoughts will determine our lives and our character. Therefore, it behooves us to be careful what we worship, for what we are worshiping, we are becoming." We become what we worship, so we need to be mindful of the object of devotion. Well, what is that object of devotion? Who or what are we worshiping, and what exactly is worship? In traditional theological language, that question of why worship is easily answered. The purpose of worship is to glorify God. And I don't disagree with that, essentially, but let's unpack that. In our tradition, in Unitarian Universalism, we do not acknowledge that any religious system, understanding, institution, or learning can rightfully claim final knowledge of all truth. One of our core principles is the open search for truth and knowledge. And so we interpret traditional theology in that frame. By the word God, I mean that which is of the highest and holiest importance, perhaps that which is truth with a capital T, perhaps the sacred nature of being, including our being. Paul Tillich was a mid-20th century existentialist Christian theologian, and he famously said, "God is not a being, but being itself, the ground of all being." And closer to our day, Forrest Church, the Unitarian Universalist minister, said, "God is not God's name. God is our name, for that which is beyond all of us and yet within each of us." So, to say that worship aims to glorify God is perhaps for us to say we hold up that which for us as a community is of the highest and holiest value, that which is of ultimate importance, or another term that Tillich used, that which is ultimate concern. So the purpose of worship, perhaps, is to address ultimate concern. The word worship is from the Old English. It means to ascribe worth to something or to shape things of worth. This also addresses the activity of worship and the idea that worship shapes things. So while we shape worship, ultimately, worship shapes us. And in so doing, we invoke a spirit, a power, and a presence that is greater than the sum of our parts. I like to say that when we gather as church, especially on Sunday mornings to worship, but at other times of the week as well, we are more than the sum of our parts. There is a spirit with us that is greater than we are. So I think there's a Pentecostal element, even and especially in our notions of free church worship. There's a dynamism in free church worship, particularly in our tradition. Van Ogden Vogt was the longtime minister of First Unitarian Society in Chicago, and he was a very important liturgist in the early to mid-20th century. He said the essential element of free church worship was not a fixed doctrine, which is the core typically of more traditional worship, but he said it was a group of spiritual energies and a pattern of religious actions. Energies and actions. He described the worship experience as a celebration of life. He said that while creeds divide, worship unites. And he explored concepts that would give in the worship experience free and aesthetic experiences with strong social and ethical overtones. In Vogt's idea, even science, say in our knowledge of evolution, contain the awe and majesty worthy of worship. Even in the scientific story of evolution, there is a spiritual and religious story about how we are part of greater forces that have acted upon us to create who we are today. Listen to how novelist Annie Dillard describes it in her book, Teaching a Stone to Talk. Here she is describing her experience in going to worship in a small congregational church in New England. She said, "Why do people in churches seem like cheerful, brainless tourists on a package tour of the absolute? Does anyone have the foggiest idea what sort of power we so blithely invoke? Or, as I suspect, does not one believe a word of it? The churches are children playing on the floor with their chemistry sets, mixing up a batch of TNT to kill a Sunday morning. It is madness to wear ladies' straw hats and velvet hats to church. We should all be wearing crash helmets. Ushers should issue life preservers and signal flares. They should lash us to our pews." So worship has the potential for power, for a powerful experience, larger than we are. Now, in our free church understanding of that, again, we don't cohere around a doctrine, but around the dynamism of our search for ultimate concern in word, song, poetry, myth, symbol, metaphor. To get at ultimate concern, you have to use both sides of your brain. plenty of heart, and occasionally a little bit of intestinal fortitude as well. It is not merely a rational construct, though we use rational constructs in worship. Worship, fully understood, is not something that can be fully understood. It is an experience. It is a trans-rational experience. There is something in the power of people, even meeting online on Sunday mornings as we are here now. There is something in the power of people who come together to lift up that which is of ultimate concern. People who gather to discover, out of the agency we have, the beauty, love, power, and yes, sometimes the ugliness of the world, the evil of the world, that which needs to be healed in the world. We gather in worship to discover what may not be evident to us, but lies in potential among us. Perhaps this is the difference between corporate worship, what we're doing now, and worshipful experiences in the world, such as I had as a boy on the coast. Both types of experiences are good and necessary to religious life. Here in our gathered community, we are particularly focused on corporate worship and creating experiences of worship to cohere the community, to both go deeper and go higher. Ultimately, I think, worship helps us to experience what Hafiz was talking about our souls waking up. The purpose of worship, I submit, is to wake up our souls, and moreover, to discover the soul in others, in all living things, and in the greater order of the world. The work of worship does not stop at the end of the worship service. We worship and we do church to wake up the soul of the world, to remind the world that the sacred, by many names and by no name, is alive in our human experience, and we shape worship so that it shapes us in particular ways, so that we can try to shape the world in particular ways. So yes, as in so many other religious concepts, worship has an ethic, inspiring us to use our agency in the world to help heal the world, to love, as we sometimes say, to love the hell out of the world, to shape the world into a world of justice, which is love expressed in community, so that ultimately we might experience all life as worship. So may it be. Amen.
Our closing hymn comes from the Teal Hymnal, number 1007, There's a River Flowing in My Soul.
There's a river flowing in my soul. There's a river flowing in my soul, and it's telling me that I'm somebody. There's a river flowing in my soul. There's a river flowing in my heart. There's a river flowing in my heart, and it's telling me that I'm somebody. There's a river flowing in my heart. There's a river flowing in my mind. There's a river flowing in my mind, and it's telling me that I'm somebody. There's a river flowing in my mind. There is a river flowing. There's a river flowing. There's a river flowing in my soul.
We extinguish this flame, but not the light of truth, the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. These we carry in our hearts until we are together again.
Again, my friends, remember, we haven't just been to church. We are the church. And when the church is the church, it is nothing more, it is nothing less, it is nothing other than a place in the world focused on the glorious sound of souls waking up so that we might wake up the soul of the world. This week and all the important things you do, be the church. Go in grace and peace. Amen.
Spirit of life, come unto me. Sing in my heart all the stirrings of compassion. Blow in the wind, rise in the sea. Giving life the shape of justice. Hold me close, wings set me free. Spirit of life, come to me.
There's a river flowing in my soul. There's a river flowing in my soul, and it's telling me that I'm somebody. There's a river flowing in my soul. There's a river flowing in my heart. There's a river flowing in my heart, and it's telling me that I'm somebody. There's a river flowing in my heart. There's a river in my mind. There's a river in my mind. Oh, it's telling me that I'm somebody. There's a river in my mind. There's a river, oh, river in my mind. There's a river that keeps flowing